Thank you very much for this inviting me for this occasion. Today happens to be Gita Jayanti, and so therefore it's my pleasure to talk to you about Bhagavad Gita and so on. As I was listening to all those that has been going on for the last nearly 3 hours, there is something which very strongly mapped, there is a certain pattern which mapped into my mind. So let me first say that. I heard, the IPS spoke about Vyaktitva. Then we had a beautiful rendering of connections of music and of course then we had a beautiful story and the moral of the story and things that came out of it. What resonated in my mind, as every one of these was going on, there were a lot of things that were happening in my mind. Every sentence that you can read in ancient Indian wisdom, I realized there is a pattern. Actually, I was just, these 3 hours I've been thinking only about pattern. Thanks to you for that. Somehow I came to a conclusion that a person who does not understand this whole, call it a science or art and science, whatever way you want to call it, of pattern, is someone who will find the world to be chaotic. Pattern is actually a method to madness, if I have to use a word like that. And the greatest contribution of ancient Indians is everything they said fell into a pattern. For example, they talked about the different aspects of music. I will quote from Taittiriya Upanishad. The first sentence in Taittiriya Upanishad talks about 6 aspects of pronunciation and sound. It says, Sikshambya Akya Syamaha. Let me now explain the whole science of sound. Then it says there are 6 components to it. Varnas, Swaraha, Matra, Balam, Samasantanaha. There are 6 elements which make the whole world of sound, which includes music. It says there is Varna, there is Swara, there is Matra, there is Bala, there is Sama, and there is a Santana. And everything, in fact, as they were talking, there were a lot of sentences which started, mapping into my mind. And I realized, for example, if you take the first sentence in the 2nd chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad, or it says, it talks about the entire origin of universe up to the multiplicity that we see in a series of patterns actually. It says, Akashat Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi, Agnerapah, Apya Prithvi, Prithvyam Oshadayah, Oshadebhyonnam, Annat Purushaha. It gives a complete mapping of how the world of multiplicity came. It said Akasha, and then came Vayu. In fact, these are all and, not plus. It is actually and. If you want Vayu, you need Akasha first. Without space, how can, gas move around? Then if you want Agni, you want space and gas. Only then Agni will come. So this is how the whole... So our ancestors had an innate capability to understand patterns so deeply. And all that they were saying, out of patterns you create, destroy patterns. When you destroy a pattern, you'll only create another pattern. That's why it's called creative. There was a famous, economist, Joseph Schumpeter. His work, he was not given a Nobel Prize. He should have been given. He had the largest number of Sishyas. His entire work is called Innovation Through Creative Destruction. So destruction is very creative. That's why it's called Shiva Tattva. See, the word Shiva means Mangala. How can a god of destruction be Mangala? Sham Karoti iti Shankaraha. Sham Bhavati iti Shambho. You think of him, good will happen. But he is called a god of destruction. That's what they were alluding to when they were actually bringing those ideas and then they were talking about. So the first thing I want to tell all of you here is, if we can very seriously, in fact the 2 greatest contribution in terms of pattern is what is called Nyaya Darshana and Vaisheshika Darshana. if people understand the way we have categorized the world of reality. In fact, Nyaya says there are 17 categories to create knowledge and understand knowledge. There are 17 categories. That's how the entire Nyaya Darshana is written like that. And Vaisheshika says the world of existence can be categorized under 9 there are 9 attributes. And each one of them has so this is our DNA. First thing I want to tell you is, I think, there is a neuroscientist and all this. I did not use these words loosely. It's not a good idea to do that. But nevertheless, what I am saying is, I think we are naturally inclined to this pattern making. So I am very happy that this institute, Satish ji, is wanting to expand it and make it a very substantive thing, because I have a feeling the connection will happen instantaneously. This is the point I would like to make. We are inherently, as a culture, who have believed in pattern. I mean, the greatest contribution, in fact, I write an equation. People ask me, what is world of multiplicity? I say it is Sat plus Chit plus Ananda plus Guna plus Nama plus Rupa. You can bring any existence in this world into this equation of 6 variables. There is a Purusha and there is a Prakriti. So our answer, the Triguna, is again a beautiful concept in making sense of the psychological construct and so on. So my first request to all of you, there are many youngsters here, get inspired by our ancient Indian wisdom. It will inform you, it will instantaneously connect you, because half of it we are actually practicing without knowing what it is. It will instantaneously connect us to a habit of creating patterns. And if somebody is adept in it, he can become a great manager. In fact, about the Katha, I must tell you, 1999-2000 I was in US for a year. So a professor there told me, sir, we use case studies. I said, our case studies is million years old. All our Puranas and Itihasas are nothing but case studies. Seriously, I said that so beautifully they brought it out. I said, I come from a culture, we believed in case studies. Although we are told Harvard Business School started case studies. No, I said, we have case studies. We believed in it. Everything is a case study. That's what Puranas are. They are very encyclopedic, actually. So I told him, no, we have a culture of case studies. Thousands of years. You know how many beautiful stories are in Upanishad? Upanishad we think is a very, Vedantic kind of a thing. No. The last chapter in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is da. It's a nice story there. And there is a beautiful message that comes out of it. It is all about the thunder. Da is what it is. So, Devas are asked, what is this da means? Right? They said it's all, the Devas, they are told, da means Dhamma. You have to control yourself. Okay? And they went to the human beings and asked, what is this da? And after their reply, they said, da means dana. And went to the Rakshasas, and what is this da? And the Rakshasas are finally told, da means daya. There are deep messages, there are ways by which you can assimilate knowledge, there are ways by which we can process it so beautifully and in a very efficient way. That's our culture. So I wish very best for this institute. I am sure he is sitting on a gold mine, and I am sure we will all partake it in our own ways. I am not going to take much time. A little bit I talk about, since it's all about patterns, I talk about 2 patterns of leadership which you will not find elsewhere, but only in Gita. So I just want to briefly introduce these 2 patterns. In fact, Shankaracharya wrote a Bhashya for Bhagavad Gita only because of that it became popular. He was the one who brought it out of Bhishma Parva. After that, everything started. But Shankaracharya wrote his Bhashya from chapter 2, not chapter 1. Many people therefore don't look at it chapter 1. There's the first pattern of leadership you will see in chapter 1, which is called failed leadership. We don't teach it anywhere. No business school can teach it. No business school knows it also. And it's very real in our life. So I want to briefly touch upon that. What is the story here? The story is, Arjuna was taken to the battlefield. In the 20th shloka in chapter 1, Arjuna says to Krishna, in fact, first 15 shlokas are preamble. Dhritarashtra, what's happening, then Sanjaya says, Duryodhana comes and introduces his army, he also introduces the people and the other army. Then they said, we all have to protect Bhishma. These are all preamble. Then he gives the conch to Bhishma, Bhishma blows the conch. Then Pandavas, all these are some 18, 19 shlokas. In the 20th shloka, Arjuna says, Senayor Ubayor Matye Ratam Stapya, some me Achyuta. Achyuta, please take my chariot. The two warring armies are there, keep it at the middle. I just want to take a look before we start. And what happened after that is the greatest lesson we all have to learn in our life. In the next 27 slokas, right, there is a complete meltdown of a great character called Arjuna. Complete breakdown. And people may think it is a war. But I just want to quote one sloka. Sidanti mama gatrani mukam cha parisushyati vepatuscha sharirem me romaharsham sajayate gandivam sramsate hastat. He says the gandhi was slipping out of my hand. That's what he says. Right? He says brahmativa cha me mana. And my head is spinning. I am not able to hold the Gandiva. My body is all it's all heat. When you are intense, it is you will sweat like anything. Why? Because there is so much heat generated. He said my tongue has dried up. And in the next some 15 slokas, this great warrior made 4 great arguments. Anybody who heard that arguments would have wound up the shop and gone. No Mahabharata war. 4 great, very good arguments actually. They are not sada sida arguments. First thing he said is, I don't want to fight. It's my personal choice. You leave me alone, I will go. I don't want to fight. How can you force me? And the arguments get stronger and stronger. That's the first argument he made to Krishna. Then he said, Swajanam hi katam hatva sukinasyama madhava. He gives all the list of uncle, there are 5 generations he says. Father, grandfather, son, grandson, senior, ubayorapi, suhrud, sambandhi, matula, bratra. They are not on the same side, they are mixed up all over the place. So he says, Swajanam hi katam hatva sukinasyama madhava. Krishna answered only one question. By killing one's own people, how can one be happy? You answer that question, I will fight now. That's not a bad argument. Then there is a third argument. The argument of Varna Sankara. Beautiful argument. Actually, after I read the shloka, I read some, Czechoslovakia war, LTT war, everything that was written in the 2 shlokas happens. He talks about the fallout of a war. He says ladies will become insecure, the whole society will become orphan. That's what you see in Midwest. Go and see in Midwest, the kind of fight happening in there. Afghanistan, go and see. A lot of orphaned people. So that's, he says Kula Dharma and Jati Dharma will be destroyed for Shashwata. That's the third argument he made. Then he collapsed. End of the first chapter. Then Krishna energizes him in the second chapter. Then he comes and asks one question. Fourth argument. He left everything. He said, please tell me how can I kill Bhishma and Drona? Puja Hom Arisodhana. They are worthy of worship here. How do I kill? No, you may think this is a story, this is something happening. No, it is happening. It is happening every one of our life. What is the message there? There are times when we will actually in the first chapter, 46 sloka, he drops all his this thing and he puts his hand, Shoka Samvigna Manasa. He put his hand like this and said, I jokingly tell my students, if it was 2022, he would have taken the thing and then called for a Uber or a Ola and ran out of the... Unfortunately, Uber and Ola are not there. The point is, this is not story. There are times in our life when we will utterly fail. My better half is not listening, my son is not listening, nobody is respecting. All these things happen. A great leader will fail, meaning will show tendencies to fail. And that message we have to take. And that message is, there are times in our life where we will be crestfallen. We cannot run away from that. The rest of the story in Bhagavad Gita is about that. That people will feel low. People will say, I don't want, there is occasions that even youngsters have it, old people also have it. I don't want to, why should I am living here? We even say all these sometimes. So, there are times when we will fail. That's the first pattern I want to tell you. If you read chapter 1 very clearly, carefully, you will find that there is a pattern of failed leadership. So, we should know that we can also fail. And then therefore the question is, because in business management we never talk about failures. We show some success stories. But there's a lot of learning in this also, no? We should know why and how. So the rest of the 17 chapters is a fantastic lesson on how do you handle these so-called failures that can come in our life, in which I find another beautiful pattern which I call as inspirational leadership. The greatest contribution of Krishna through Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna through Bhagavad Gita is showing you how can you be very inspirational in life. And inspirational leadership is contagious. In fact, you don't need a visiting card. You don't need to be a CEO to be a leader. You don't need to be head of the family to be a leader. It's a trait. It is a certain attitude that we develop in life. There are many, but I'll take only 3. I'll keep it very concise because we are already running very late and all that. I'll keep it very concise. There are 3 things. The first thing that Krishna talks about, he has talked about 40 times, not once or twice in Bhagavad Gita, 40 times. And as a professor of management for 30 years, the innumerable consulting I have done, I am more than convinced of this. In our own personal life also I have seen, all of us will. In 14 sloka in chapter 2, he introduces this concept for the first time. He says, Matra sparshast kaunteya, sitoshna sukha dukkataha, agamapaino anityaha tam titikshasva bharata. He says, we all have what is called pancha tanmatras. See, today, modern science says you are seeing because some signals go from here, some electrical signals reach a certain part of the brain. So this is how we are explaining. In our scheme, we use what is called pancha tanmatras. There is a concept of seeing. There is something called hearing. It's an attribute. So we have now, conceptualized it in a particular way with some neuro signals and so on. We are saying it articulating in a different way. Krishna says, as long as your pancha tanmatras are active, which means I can hear well, I can see, I can smell. Smell is a much bigger word. Huh? It's not this smell. We smell many things in life. You have to understand these words. So that's why I should not use English words because it sometimes convey a little less. He says as long as these 5 sensory organs are very, very active, alive and kicking, that's the word they use, right? As long as the 5 sensory organs are alive and kicking, he says, Arjuna, understand one thing. Sita Ushna Sukha Dukkataha. It will blow hot and cold in life. You will get Sukha and Dukkha. In fact, I tell my students, the buy one, get one free is, time immemorial. You want Sukha, Dukkha is free for you. But unfortunately, we don't teach it to our children. We should tell them you have to develop equanimity. Mental equipoise is what makes the strongest leader. That's the first raw material required. You ask for Sukha, Dukkha is given free to you. Buy one, take one free. That's what Krishna is saying. He says, see, there is this world of duality. You can write a dictionary of duality. Hot, cold, like, I don't like, inside, outside, positive, negative, far, near. You can go on like this. There is a world of duality. But unfortunately, in today's education and the makeup from many places, we are saying that only good things will happen to us. We should aim for good things. I am not saying we have to be very pessimistic in life. But we should only have surprises in life, not disappointment in life. These two are 2 different things. There may be surprises, which means I put my best foot forward, it didn't happen. Whatever reasons. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Today it doesn't work like that. People think only good things have to happen, they work for it. Of course they work for it. When sometimes bad things happen, they collapse. Completely collapse. That's what this Arjuna tried to do. He was not able to handle some reality which is unfolding in front of them. 40 times he talked about it. In fact, in chapter 14, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, he says Samadukka, 6 examples he gives there. Samadukka Sukha Swastha Samaloshta Ashmakanchana Manapamanayo Tulya Tulya Mitrari Pakshayoho Tulya Ninda Atma Samstuti. There are 6 things he says. Sarvarama Parityagi Gunatitara Sauchate. He says a person who has arrived in life is one who understands there are all kinds of dualities which will be thrown at us. And he is able to say, I will be able to take it. So this is one message. There are plenty of examples. I am not going. Every chapter has. If you go. In fact, he says, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. The definition of yoga is Samatva. Siddha Asiddhayo Samo Bhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. That is the definition he gives. In fact, this Matra Sparshastu, in the next shloka, he says, a person who understood how to handle it, Saha Amritatvaya Kalpate. I take him to the level of immortality. Because life and death also has become now another pair of duality, so you will have to transcend it. This is the first message I want to give. This is very important to be a great leader. And I again tell you, great leader doesn't mean you need a CEO. You can be a great leader in your family. You can be a great leader in Samaja. You can be a great leader in your workplace also, in your community. It's a certain attribute, and this will be very, very inspirational. The second important thing to be a leader, which Krishna so beautifully talks about, is what is called Yadyad Acharati Sreshtaha Tadyad Eva Itare Janaha Sayat Pramanam Kurute Lokastadunu Vartate. In modern times we teach what is called leading by example. Krishna talked about it. He says Yadyad Acharati, not Yadyad Vadati. Vadati means I can tell all kinds of things and I can do all kinds of nonsense. He says Acharati. You may speak whatever you want to speak. People will see what you are doing. And I want to tell you, I have seen it in several families. The child is 2 years old. It has just started the vocabulary. It has started talking. Slowly it is picking up the vocabulary. They come to the family function. You find that the child uses some bad words. It comes either from mother or father. We are all role models. Every one of us, and especially after he said in first 2-3 years, most of the thing is over. If you can present a very ideal parentage in front of your children, you have invested for a lifetime. For first 3 years, first 5 years maybe, you should be absolutely behave, not talk. A lot of problems, they say something, they do something. Children have very sharp, they are very value neutral. So they can pick up ideas very subtly. As we grow old, we start developing our own values and then take this side or that side. We refuse to process it in a blind neutral. The child does not do that. So Krishna says, if you want to exhibit leadership skills, whether at your home or at your workplace, or lead by example. Yadyad acharati sreshtaha tadyad evaitare janaha sa yat pramanam kurute lokastadanu vartate. Whole world will go after it. Understand, this is a very important idea of leadership. Then there is a third thing which he also talks about, which is a grand concept. He says, Devan bhavayata anena te deva bhavayantuvaha Parasparam bhavayantaha shreyaha param avapsyata. There is a very cardinal principle he brings, which is called Paraspara bhava. Particle physicists are today talking about what is called a web of life and interdependence and so on. This world is hugely a mutually dependent field. The great ideas of leadership begins by saying you should have mutual dependence. I will give you 4 examples. Let us take a simple office setting. If a boss thinks he has all the power, he can throw his weight. That's what some people think. I have seen this happening. Subordinates will see the joy of the boss failing. They will do that. Your power is all no meaning. You have to have a strong mutual dependence with your subordinates. These subordinates are all simply for the purpose of doing some work. You cannot extend your understanding beyond that. That means you can never become a good leader. So that's the first element of a civil society must, and the government has very deep mutual dependence. If you are a iota of doubt, you should look at what happened in 2014. A Prime Minister who is Manmohan Singh became Manmohan Singh. There is a lot of, so many things have happened below him. One gentleman put a white cap and went and sat in Jantar Mantar. 1 million people ran up and down and changed the government forever. 10 years is forever, more or less. What I am saying, a civil society and a government elected representatives have strong mutual dependence. This is a very cardinal principle in life. I will give you a third example. In fact, man and nature has strong mutual dependence. In fact, people call me sometimes to talk about nature. I have also done some work and so on. So once they call me and said, Professor Mahadevan will tell us how to protect nature. I started by saying nature needs absolutely no helping hand from ordinary mortals like you and me. If possible, protect yourself. That's a fact. A place called Kedarnath in 2013, in a matter of 3 hours, the clock was wound by 150 years. How many of you know? Flood came and sorted out everything in 3 hours. These nature are large scale systems. You don't know how it works. You don't even know when it comes out. So that's the next principle. So a leader, if somebody wants to become a good leader, wherever they, in whatever sphere they are, that's why Krishna says, Parasparam bhavayanti shreyaha param bhavapsyati. He will attain the pinnacle of shreyas. In fact, our Vedic texts, if you read, Rig Veda particularly, this mutual dependence is hugely celebrated. It's hugely emphasized. Don't make me happy. I want the 4-legged, 2-legged, 4-legged, 8-legged and 9-legged. I don't know what are these 8-legged and 9-legged, I do not know. That's what again and again our mantras say. Unless the whole ecosystem is in harmony, I will not be in harmony. I will be gone. We have to understand that. So these are all very deeply ingrained ideas. One can gain great ideas of life, drive things and just gave only 2-3 examples just to sort of kindle your imagination. Every one of our texts in this country, I once again want to emphasize that we were inherently very pattern oriented. We were able to look through and have a spirit of inquiry, and we developed a great spirit of inquiry. If you read some of the Upanishads and see how the questions are answered, how the questions are we developed a great culture of spirit of inquiry. I think a prerequisite for this pattern oriented thinking is to develop a spirit of inquiry. Questioning is very different from spirit of inquiry. In fact, if you read our literature, you will find that the Guru will never answer. He will never answer. Because if you ask a question, you have thrown it out of you. If you live with the question, so many interesting things will happen. You should never let out the question that easily. But I was attending one 80 hours of a special Vedantic lecture by a great Swamiji. So he asked me after about 40 days, 2 hours. After 2 weeks, he asked me, Professor Mahadevan, why are you not asking any question? Don't you have question? I told Swamiji, I have a lot of questions. I will not ask. I live with it. That's our practice. If you live with your question, the question will change, question will become deeper, question will vanish. It will take you to the next level of question. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina. It's called pariprashna. Our youngsters must develop that habit. It is pariprashna. You have to ruminate with that. You have to, live with the question. Of course, one can ask question. Now what happens is you throw the question and the burden of sorting it out is with the elders and teachers. That's a culture we have been told. That's not what it is. That mind should be very inquisitive. That means we should live with that question. We should train that when they are young. We should make them not uncomfortable when they have a doubt. We should facilitate them to grow the doubt with supplementary things. Then all these will work very well. That's where the idea of creating patterns will eventually emerge. I'm sure we have plenty to draw from the Indian repository. My little experience is everywhere I keep reading, this was ruminating in my mind for the last 2 hours. But everything they were saying, I was saying, after I didn't tell you all of that because then it will be 10 o'clock by the time we finish. Already you are too late with this. I just wanted to only tell you that encourage. In fact, we had an Upanishad called Prashna Upanishad. So this is a country which believed in a great amount of inquiry. And I tell you one more story in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and stop it. It's again the last chapter of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Indra and Virochana went to Brihaspati, and they are very beautifully told. And there are deep messages there. You have to analyze it, just like they were trying to analyze the Dhruva Charitra. So Indra and so both of them went to Brihaspati, said, we want to know, Virochana and Indra, we want to know who am I. Brihaspati said, stay here. 24 years they stayed. 24 years, not a day or two. 24 years you stay here. One day they called both of them. He said, come from. Both of them understood. They thanked Brihaspati and then went. Halfway Indra came back. He said, because he found a bundle of conflict in this, understand. He started thinking. Whereas Virochana went. Today we have a lot of Virochanas and a big industry working around it. That's a different story. But Indra came back. He said, I don't agree with you. This body will develop wrinkles. However much you put age defying and all that, age cannot be defied. Finally it will show up. Everything happens. So I am not convinced. Whereas Virochana never had a doubt, he went away. Brihaspati said, wait for another 24 years. 4 times he made him to wait. 96 years. He was revealed. The process was, you have to allow the student to assimilate, see the pattern. You can facilitate. You can facilitate the process. In Chandogya, there is another story, right? This Satyakama Jabali came, he said, just take these cows and go. When it becomes double, you come. It took 12 years for him to come back after 12 years. After 12 years, he came, he said, you are a Brahmajnani, you have learned so much from life. It's a beautiful conversation there. So our stories, our Upanishads, our scriptures have phenomenal amount of serious contemplation and thinking. I would request you to take more of these also and then add into your Kadala Kadalas and all that. Thank you for this opportunity. I really enjoyed listening to all of you. I really didn't feel like because it was so beautiful. So I was trying to say, why am I trying to come here and then tell some kind of a thing? I was trying to make a pattern out of this series of things which he has to make anyway. I got an answer at least for my lecture. Shankaracharya says in his Saundarya Lahari, see, when you eat something very sweet, you can't eat beyond a point. Typical, no? So if you want to eat more, take some buttermilk. Sour buttermilk, 1 tumbler, again start eating. Right? So he says, the Chakora Pakshi's face is like that. In Saundarya Lahari it is like that. So here, we have some, certainly mine will be of sour buttermilk. You have some beautiful sweets which are offered. I am sure at the end of the day, you will only benefit with all that. Thank you for this opportunity and wish you the very best.